Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I'm Josh Williams and I'm joined by Mo Stewart as always. Mo, how are you getting on, mate?
Good, man. Good. I've been excited by this week's task, and I've been taken to it with vigor, which, considering how Liverpool have been playing, will probably let people know exactly what we are and aren't talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's grim, isn't it? It's grim on Merseyside at the minute. Liverpool got absolutely hammered by Wolves, and I don't actually think we really learned anything new. So rather than touching on those negatives again for like the 17th consecutive week or whatever it is, I thought we could maybe change the combo up a bit and direct the conversation towards scouting picks, basically. So Mo hasn't actually took part in one of these yet, but what the idea of the show generally is I will pick out a few players and Mo will do the same. Just general players that we like the look of for whatever reason, and we'll touch on those reasons, ones to watch type thing. We have done this a lot of times in the past since the show was first created and stuff. And I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I think a few players I've named. I think I named Josko Gvardiol, just as he moved to Leipzig while he was still at Zagreb. I think that turned out pretty well. I remember mentioning Odegaard, Coop Miners, who got linked with Liverpool recently. Dave mentioned a few in the past. So we generally do okay with it, but no pressure.
See, this is the tough part of it because it's how low on the food chain
Yeah.
do they really need to be? Because a lot of these guys are people who, I think just because of the way football is now, and particularly with Liverpool, the fact that we have been so desperate for transfers, it's harder to find someone who no one knows about, particularly if you want to have someone playing in a good enough league to say that their talents could potentially blossom. So it's a fine line, but I feel like I've done okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's different reasons why we do this. It's not strictly Liverpool this episode technically. Like one of my players will be probably a surprise to a few people, and it's certainly not a Liverpool link. It's just a player I want to talk about because I like the lot of him. So it doesn't have to be like I remember Dave once went towards the, I think he went towards the Polish First Division, and I think he recommended something like a 20-year-old centre half that nobody had ever heard of, and since he said that, the player's done absolutely none. So that's as obscure as we've got, I think. But most of the time, it's just a player from Europe's top 5 leagues who's doing all right and things like that. But without further ado, I will let you start, mate. So where are we going first?
Yeah, I had a feeling you might say that. Well, this fella is certainly not playing in the Polish First Division. He's playing in La Liga and he's playing international football, and he's going to probably be one of the greatest players in his position for his country if he continues at the same rate, which is a big claim to start the show with, I know. But I genuinely think this kid's got it all. Alejandro Balde is his name. He plays left back for Barcelona, and he's very young. He's only 19 years old, but he's already basically retiring Jordi Alba. Um, he's most of his skills comes from attacking, but he is a very good defender. When you see most young players coming in at fullback and they start to excel, you look at their attacking play, and if you look at most of his compilations and most of the kind of highlight packages, they are all focused on him going forward, and with good reason because he's fantastic going forward. But I like the fact that he doesn't let his defensive side down. One-on-one, he's very good. And this is interesting because I looked at his stats and I was kind of surprised at how low some of his stats are, particularly on tackles and interceptions. But then you think about it, he plays for Barcelona. Barcelona defenders don't traditionally do masses and masses of defending, so numbers are going to be down. And then I looked at the table, La Liga table, Barcelona, top of the table, currently conceded 7 goals in 20 games. So I think it's fair to say defensively, he does okay. So let's talk about him attacking, because he's amazing. brilliant at dribbling. That's the thing that's going to stand out. His turn of speed is ridiculous. He can go from 0 to 60 in what seems like a blink of an eye. And I love the way he does it as well. You can see sometimes he can just burn people with good coach control and just out and out speed. But sometimes he can be tricky with it. Like, he's one of those, he's got the ability to do things that only certain players with certain speed can do. He can take a big touch because he knows he can catch it up. And those big touches sometimes draw the defenders in, but he gets there first. So the defender comes in, commits, and he can just scoot on by him and quite embarrass him quite a lot. And he does that quite a lot. He has that ability, and he's starting to up his production now. He's getting a few more assists. Still needs to improve on his shooting because he is going to get chances in front of goal. But my goodness, every time I watch this kid, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I first became aware of him at the World Cup, actually, so not fairly recent for me. I've generally switched off with the whole Barcelona nonsense past couple of years. It just seems to be crazy over there, doesn't it? But I did pick up on him at the World Cup. I was impressed with his performances, and a quick Google just told me that he played for Barcelona, and I was quite surprised at the time. Maybe I'm off the scene a little bit lately, but I was a bit surprised by it. Looking into him a bit more, as you say, he looks like a top player, and at the World Cup, it shined immediately. You know, he was just the kind of player who quite clearly had obvious quality, really fast, as you say, explosive almost. 19 years old as well, so he's got plenty of years ahead of him to actually get towards his peak. And if you look at his numbers in comparison to like fullbacks from across Europe's top 5 leagues over the past year, he's in like the 95th percentile for successful dribbles on a per 90 basis. And as you say, really attacking, got really offensive qualities. So yeah, he's the type of player who looks like he's going to be a top performer to me.
And the interesting thing about him as well is that he's kind of in the Gavi situation, in as much as that he's done so much so quickly that his contract is technically up at the end of next year. So Barcelona are frantically trying to get him to sign an extension, but the vultures are beginning to circle. So it'll be very interesting to pay attention to that, because he could be one of the big stories over the summer if they don't get that extension done by the end of the season.
Yeah, he does look very, very good. So for mine, where shall I start with this? I think I will start in probably the surprise place then. I'm going to go as close to home as you possibly can, and I'm going to go to Goodison Park, funnily enough.
Oh, wow.
Amadou Onana, I am a fan of. This is just a complete curveball for this show, because this is a Liverpool show, and obviously because of that we're probably never ever going to sign this player. But I think Everton have got a little gem there, to be honest. I want to say little. He's over 6 foot. He's 21 years old, Belgian international, and based on what I've seen so far, I think Everton have got a really good player here. As I said, he's about 6'2", I think. He's good on the ball. I think he can carry over large distances, got really long strides and things like that. Physical, strong, athletic. And he regains possession quite a lot for them. Offers a bit of a presence in the middle of the park, I think. And I think it's interesting that West Ham were the first club to go for him in the summer just gone. And I think he was very obviously the replacement for Declan Rice, who's probably going to go in the summer. I think he would have been ideal for that, actually. But he ends up going to Everton. Why he chose Everton over West Ham, I don't know, to be honest. But he looks like he's going to be a really good player moving forward. As I said, he's only 21. Thinking of what he might be like when he's 25. If put it this way, if I was in charge of Chelsea or Spurs or Arsenal maybe, or a team like that, I would be really monitoring the whole situation at Everton. They're still, even though they've just beat Arsenal, I think they're still in 18th in the Premier League. Relegation, even though Dyche has now arrived, is a very realistic possibility. So if it wasn't Liverpool, I would be circling around Onana, basically thinking I can pick this lad up here, because he looks really well rounded. As I said, he's still just 21, and unusually for Everton, he looks like a good pick-up. Obviously they get it wrong a lot in the transfer market, but in signing him, I think it was about 35 million or so. he looks like a really good buy, I think.
I mean, credit where it's due.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the thing I like about that is that they signed Idrissa Gueye uh, alongside him as well. So it was almost like an insurance policy in case it didn't quite go to plan. But yeah, I think from the very first time he came on, I remember I think he came on as a sub in a game,
He
and
scored.
I don't think he scored. I think he nearly set one up,
Yeah,
and he just immediately rose the level of play by all players around him, injecting that, like you say, that energy, but also he was able to distribute the ball and receive it and win it back with ease. So he does look like he's got quite the ceiling. I think of those teams that you mentioned, the ones who I would be most, if I was interested, I'd be going for is Spurs. Because
yeah,
you think about the idea of pairing him with Højbjerg and Bentancur in the midfield, then that gives you a real good balance between being able to win the ball, being able to get up and down the pitch, being also able to pick a great pass. I think I like the fact that he's someone who could probably be the defensive man in a three, but also be a roaming eight, so to speak. So the problem he's got at Everton is I do think his role in the Sean Dyche midfield might be considerably different to what it would have been in the Frank Lampard midfield. And that might not necessarily be good for him at this stage in his development. He might need a bit of stability. I mean, where you find stability in football is hard, to be honest, but
yeah.
that's
Well,
my only fear for him. But no, I'm like you. I think that they've got to get in there.
yeah. Well, he was used in the three in Dyche's first game. He was used as a number 8 with Idrissa Gueye as the 6, I think, and with Decore as the other 8. But I think he's better on the ball than I thought he'd be. And without the ball, as I said, he regained it a fair amount. Just looking at his numbers so far this season. In terms of in terms of tackling dribblers, right? He's got the best success rate in the Premier League for midfielders, except for one player, and that one player, funnily enough, is Moises Caicedo. So Anana is second for the number of dribblers that he's tackled for midfielders. That is 27 lads have attempted to dribble past him, and he's tackled 20 of them. So I think that kind of offers insight into what he is for me, and I think, funnily enough, it's an issue Liverpool have suffered with a little bit this season. But yeah, I just wanted to tip my hat towards the Blues for the first time, I think, in Analysing Anfield history, really. And that'll be the last time as well, I promise.
Yeah, definitely the last time. I can't see them doing it. I mean, they almost did it by accident, really, didn't they? So.
Yeah, that's how it feels, yeah. It feels like they've looked across at what Moyes is doing and thought, go on, we'll copy David Moyes, see who Moyes is buying.
Yeah, maybe they were trying to get him to come back, and they were just asking, "Oh, what do you think about players?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I like this guy in Arnold."
Yeah. Right, I'll let you continue the theme, mate. Who's next?
Well, my next one is an English player, but he's not playing for an English team. He's Jamie Bino Gittens, who plays for Borussia Dortmund. He's gone a very well-worn path from London to the Man City Academy to Borussia Dortmund, and he will undoubtedly be compared to that other fella who did that same path. He's now playing for Manchester United, called Jadon Sancho. I think he's a different kind of player to Sancho. Sancho, they both have that tricky ability. They can both go either side of a defender. Sancho was still looking for, his first instinct was to play the ball to the killer ball to the striker. Jamie Bino Gittens has got a goal in it. And I think it was one of his first or second appearances this season. He came off the bench and scored. And he scored another absolute belter last week, cutting inside off his right foot and curling it into the bottom corner. And I just think that he's one of those players who, if he gets the chance to grow, then he could become fantastic. The issue for him might be getting that chance within Dortmund, because Dortmund have got a lot of forward players. Like, a lot of forward players. Like, they've got Haller, Anthony Modeste, Moukoko, who are all central strikers. Then they've got Bino Gittens, Karim Adeyemi, Daniel Marlin, Torgan Hazard, Julian Brand, Gio Reyna, who all want to play wide forwards. And it's going to be tough for him to get the consistent minutes to develop. But if he does, I really like this kid. I think he can go far.
Yeah, I'll be honest, he's not really on my radar. And you have moved early on this kid by the looks of it, because he's made 8 Bundesliga appearances this season, just 4 last season. So he's a very early mover for you there. I'm impressed, mate.
Well, I mean, I think I do spend a lot of time watching Borussia Dortmund for reasons that are probably obvious to everybody. But I've also been intrigued by what a lot of people said about him coming out of the City Academy. I think it's a strange situation for them because they want to feel like they learned the lessons from Jadon Sancho, but I'm not sure they have. The problem is the players themselves are looking at Sancho and thinking, well, regardless of what you tell me, Pep Guardiola, I know that I'm going to get minutes if I go to the Bundesliga. Irony is, as it turns out, that he's not quite getting that yet. But I might have gone early, it's true. But I do think that this time next year, there'll be quite a few more people with that same opinion, genuinely. I think it's for him, like I say, he has to get the opportunities, because if you look at he's taking more shots he's in the 98th percentile for shots per 90, 99th percentile for shots on target per 90, which is obviously good. Now, we have to mention, like you said, these are smaller sample sizes, but that does tell you that when he is on the pitch, he is dangerous. And I think in a team like Borussia Dortmund that do accentuate the attacking side, I think it's fair to say, he's going to get opportunities to show what he can do if he gets on the pitch.
It's funny that you should mention Dortmund attackers, actually, because when I was looking for players to mention, I did come across Daniel Mahler, and I think his current situation is quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think a few years back, he was a topic on this show a fair bit. And like he was getting linked with Liverpool, and he was thriving at PSV, I think it was. And obviously, he's gone to Borussia Dortmund, and it just hasn't really worked for him yet. He's made 40 appearances in the Bundesliga and scored 5 times. 31 of those were starts, 4 assists. I mean, you said there that you watch Dortmund fairly often. Have you got any awareness as to why he's struggled, or?
I mean, he's kind of lost in the reeds in those forwards. Like I say, he's had opportunities as the first choice forward, and it hasn't really grasped it. I still think he would probably prefer to play through the centre than out wide, personally. But he hasn't really been given that opportunity long term. But over the course of this season, we've seen the use of Moukoko become a lot more of a senior striker, a lot more of a senior presence. We've fantastically been able to see Sebastian Haller coming back to fitness and form. And then you think about Karim Adeyemi, who's just come through, and there's just more informed forwards than him to get his opportunity. As I say, it's a similar problem with Bino Gittins, but Bino Gittins is probably going to get more opportunities because when he does come on, he is making a difference.
Yeah, so for my next pick, we are going to move towards Holland, the Eredivisie, and I'm going to go for Orkun Koku. You aware of him?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, he plays for Feyenoord. He's Turkish, and one of the recurring what's the word? One of the recurring phrases we use on this podcast every now and then when we find a player who really shined specifically in the data is we label the player as an output merchant. And that's very much what this lad looks like. He is, as I said, he's a centre midfielder for PSV. This season they've used 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3. If it's 4-2-3-1, he plays as one of the double sixes. If it's 4-3-3, I think he plays as the right side of number 8. And he looks, on the ball at least, like a real end product merchant, basically. He's 22 years old, very two-footed. This season he has 6 non-penalty goals to his name and 1 assist in 19 appearances in the league. Takes penalties, takes set pieces. He's the captain, so he's a very prominent figure in Feyenoord's team. Really good technique on the ball. and I think it was interesting that recently StatsBomb have got like a similar players metric.
Yeah.
I think they call it a doppelganger metric. And someone asked who's the most similar player under 23 to current David Silva, and this lad came up as the second most similar behind Pedri of
Wow.
Barcelona. So obviously that doesn't mean he's necessarily a great player and like that, but that would obviously make you want to go and watch him a little bit more.
Well, yeah.
And he looks like a really technical. I mean, in the numbers on the defensive side, not so much. But if you look at his numbers in possession, I mean, against midfielders from Europe's top 5 leagues over the past year, he's in the 99th percentile for progressive passes, expected goals assisted, shot creating actions, passes. You know, he just general passes
Is
attempted.
it 99 for all of those?
Yeah, 99th percentile for all of them.
Yeah.
So he's looks like a very prominent, dominant figure for Feyenoord. I feel like I've got to probably watch him a bit more. I've seen him, but I've got to watch him more because in the numbers, he looks like a real output merchant. Like,
So, I mean, stature-wise, is he similar to David Silva in that way? I mean, obviously,
yeah,
he plays.
he's
So,
about 5'9", I think.
okay. So,
but he's worth watching though because he's as I said, he looks like a really dominant player for Feyenoord. And he looks like he's got a lot of skills attached to his game. I mentioned a few months ago to you when we were looking at centre mids. I think I mentioned Enzo Lafite, didn't I?
yes.
He would have been in my pick today if I didn't mention him back then. But this lad looks not similar because I don't know if he's got the defensive numbers attached to his game. This lad, but in terms of being like an offensive minded midfielder who can do a lot for you when you've got the ball. I think if I was a Premier League team, I don't know if he's top 4 good. Maybe I've got to look at him a bit more than that. But if I was like maybe a Newcastle or a Leicester, you know, a team like that kind of trying to push, maybe even as high as the Spurs, he looks like he's worth delving deeper into because he got a lot of numbers on his game there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of stylistically, he definitely sounds like the kind of player I enjoy watching. So even just from that point of view. So Feyenoord, are they still in the Europa League this season?
I'm not sure actually. I have to double check that one.
If they are, I will definitely be watching their next fixture.
Yeah, I mean, he's even in the 98th percentile for shots, 98th percentile for non-penalty goals, 97th percentile for progressive carries, 91st percentile for XG. So he's just everywhere. He's just very involved when it comes to possession. So he looked interesting.
Well, unfortunately, they got knocked out. They didn't get out of the group, so I will have to find a way. Yeah, I have to find a way to check out some Dutch football. But yeah, he's definitely one I'm going to keep my eye on for sure.
Who's next?
So, someone who plays in a similar position on the pitch, but is a little bit more, let's call him a maverick, I think. This is one where some people may find themselves rolling their eyes, where some people might say, yes, yes, yes. That is Ryan Cherky, who plays attacking midfield / number 10 for Lyon. Yes, he's an attacking midfielder for Lyon. Yes, we've heard this before. And again, he's going to be compared to other players who've walked that path, the likes of Nabil Fekir, Hassam Aouar. Personally, I think he could be better than both of those. I think at the moment he's very raw, but when you look at the skill that he has, the ability on the ball, the comfort he is with finishing with both feet, that's the thing I like the most about them. This guy can go on either side. He's capable in the central, but he can go on either side and still be deadly. He's still young, he's still raw. At the moment, Laurent Blanc is riding his ass a little bit because he's not contributing as much as he should be. But again, if you look at the numbers, progressive passes is up in the 96, progressive carries 98, successful take-ons the 99th percentile, assists the 92nd, so he's getting some good production. I think it's hard to say because we've been here before with players from Lyon who looked good and then never quite cracked it. But maybe because those guys never left at the right time. Maybe if Ryan Shirky gets that right, he could. Because genuinely watching him, you're thinking, wow, this kid could go all the way.
Yeah, we have touched on a few Lyon players over the years. I think Amin Guri, I think, might have been a player that we mentioned a while back. I don't think he's at Lyon anymore. I think he ended up at Nice, didn't he, or something like that. But,
Yes.
yeah, Lyon tends to produce these really high potential academy graduates, don't they? Is he an academy graduate? Is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
looking at his numbers there, it's based on a small sample. He only played about 700 minutes, but again, another output merchant by the looks of it, like 99 percentile for progressive passes received and the take-ons and shot creating actions and things like that. Shoots a lot by the looks of it. So yeah, another top Lyon product really. I mean, it's funny that his four most similar players based on those numbers.
It's like the Ballon d'Or list.
Exactly, yeah. He's got Ousmane Dembele, then Lionel Messi, then Neymar, and then Vinicius Junior. I mean, he's going to be like any of them. One for a winner there.
Well, exactly, and I think it's not. Like you say, those are based on numbers from potentially smaller sample sizes. But I think with the eye test as well, when you look at him, he's one of those guys. He has the potential to just get people off seats. He's the kind of guy when you go into a match, you're thinking we're going to see some magic from this guy. He's the guy who gets people excited on the way into a ground about what they're about to see. And I do think that attitude, temperament, all of those things are very, very important for a player like him playing in this kind of position, because you do need to still be able to have the flair, but you want to be disciplined enough to not become a luxury for your team. I think he's still learning that at the moment. But again, if he gets it right, I think if he gets a really good coach, then you could find him really flying. I'm not convinced Laurent Blanc is that guy. So it might be that he needs to move on to find that. But yeah, he's one. The next time you get a chance to see Lyon, check him out.
Yeah. I'm going to go towards Spain for I suppose, a similar-ish player, but also very different at the same time. So, La Liga, and mine is Nico Williams. And not that one.
No.
Yeah, not the one who's at Forest who's just been at Liverpool. This is a lad who's got the same name, spelt a little bit differently. Plays for Bilbao, and he is 20 years old. I think he was in the Spanish World Cup squad as well. Came on for a few times, got a few minutes on the pitch, and he looks interesting. He looks roughly in the type of mould that Liverpool like for their forwards, in terms of like he's super explosive. Direct, likes to carry the ball. I think he's in the 95th percentile of forwards for progressive carries over the past year. Direct, athletic, all those nice things really. 5'11", so he's not a bad height. And when he likes to go on a dribble and things like that. And when he's facing up his man, and when he's carrying the ball and going direct at his man and things like that, he reminds me a little bit of a young Cristiano Ronaldo when he was at Manchester United. Little bit weird in the way he does it, but it does work, and he looks a bit panicked at times and things like that, but it does come off for him a lot of the time. And sometimes he can end up going down dead ends, basically. Sometimes he can end up and in places where he's a bit like, how did I get here? And I think that kind of captures what I'm going to say in terms of, I think his end product definitely needs to improve. One thing this player doesn't have attached to his game is the data. Really, he's not really a goals and assists merchant and like that. He's not really producing too much beyond carries and dribbles. So he looks like a really raw, rough gem to me, but one who, considering he's still 20, if he adds that element to his game, I suppose like Ronaldo did, he could end up like a really, really talented player, basically, really attack-minded problem for defenders to manage in the final third. Because I think on his own, he looks like he's got all unnecessary natural qualities to be really good. It just needs to be harnessed in the right way, I think.
No, 100%. I think in terms of talent, I think he's definitely an upgrade on his brother Inaki. I think what Inaki does have in his favour, though, is discipline and the mentality to be able to adapt his game to what the team required. I think he's got the ability to learn that. I do think attitude-wise, he's also very determined, very driven. I think, again, you saw when he came on in the World Cup, he was determined to take the opportunities that he was given. And he did improve the team, I think, both times when he came on. Um, I like him. It's funny you mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo. I think partly because he kind of looks a bit like him, but also because of style. He reminds me of Wilf Zaha because I think
Yeah,
like
that lost my mind as well. Yeah,
particularly when you said that sometimes he can do something magical and then sometimes he can just find himself in a cul-de-sac with no way out.
yeah.
Um, but it will be interesting to see how his career develops because he's another one for whom you can see a world where he stays at Bilbao his whole career, like his brother looks like he's probably going to do as well, and becomes like a legend within Bilbao. But then you wonder if he takes the leap and goes somewhere else, could he be even better than that?
Well, this is one of the issues with Bilbao, I suppose. When they do get these talented players, for them to be bought by teams across Europe, they have to basically get really, really good because they just demand that you pay the release clause to get them. So, in terms of Inaki Williams and Nico Williams now, to get them, you have to pay the release clause, and usually the release clause is like an extortionate figure, basically. Like, I think, did City get Laporte from Bilbao? But that was a release clause thing, and I think it was about 70 million at the time. And a lot of the time, they just don't sell the players. They ended up keeping them. But Williams, as I said, he's still very young at the minute. Just a little bit more on his output. So from 30 starts in La Liga, he's got 3 goals and 4 assists. Obviously, some of that can stem from the stylistic nature of his team and things like that. Maybe they're not particularly offensive. I don't watch Bilbao very often. But he seems to have become more of a starter this season compared to last season when he was a bit more of a bit part player. But he looks like one to watch just based on his raw qualities and stuff. And if he can take his career in the right direction, he's got everything that you kind of need to be a really problem attacker for opponents. But he looks a bit raw for me at the minute to be like targets as any team or anything like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's one who he will occasionally have a really good performance, and that might get a few column inches going and a few sporting directors interested. But in terms of firm bids, I think simply because of, like you said, the parameters that Bilbao are going to put on him, he's probably going to be a lot more valuable to them than he will be to any potential suitors, which might end up being why he does end up staying, if he does end up staying.
Yeah. Who's next?
Well, first of all, I have to apologise to my friend Connor Clancy because my last 2 picks come from the same team and they're his team. So he's going to think I'm getting at him. But this is his fault for telling me to watch Atalanta so much. And he was right because Atalanta, I've got some very good players. And the very first one I'm going to pick is a fella called Giorgio Scalvini, who I believe some people may have heard because there have been some sensitive links with Liverpool over the last few months. Now, this kid, he's tall. He's very tall. He's not broad, but he has the ability to play as a centre-back, but also can play as a defensive midfielder. He's got that range of passing that allows him to get further ahead. I think there are a lot of people in Italy who think he's going to be the future at centre-back, but if you look at his ability on the ball, he does have it to be able to go further in midfield. I've been comparing him to, there was a couple of other centre-backs I was looking at. I was looking at Piero Hincapié, Leverkusen, who I also like. There's another Leon guy, Lukeba, who looks very good as well. And I think of the 3 of them, I pumped for Scalvini simply because I think he has a versatility. He's able to do all the things you want from a defender. He's got good tackle numbers. He's got good interception numbers. But he's also got a very high pass completion rate. So he's able to distribute the ball when he needs to. And I know that this isn't about Liverpool, but allow me to digress a little bit. He's left-footed. If he is going to play as a centre-back, it's normally on the left side. We're going to need one of those soon.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that because I'm actually watching clips of him now, and I've just watched him play a proper cross-field diagonal ball with his right foot. So it shows he's got distribution attached to his game. Obviously, Joel Matip has a contract which is due to expire at the end of next season. I think I've even saw the odd little word that he's potentially up for sale this summer. I don't think he's up for sale, is he? But something that Liverpool listen to bids or something like that. But because of Van Dijk, we haven't really. I can't remember who the last left-footed centre back Liverpool had. It was Daniel Agger left-footed.
Yeah,
is that the last one that we had?
Well, I mean, according to Transfermarkt, he is right-footed, but I've seen him do plenty with his left foot. Put it that way. So,
okay. He's two-footed for the sake of the show, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he looks like a relatively complete player, though. Yeah, 6'4" as well, which is impressive.
He is, and I think, like I said, he's comfortable. His composure belies his years, and that's one of the things you're going to need as a centre back. You need, as you are learning your trade, you need to be able to be tough enough to deal with whatever the striker's given you, but also have that range of passing and the ability to be able to kind of win those battles and then take the ball forward. And yeah, I think this guy's got it.
I've just been informed by our producer, Pat, that Ragnar Klavan was actually left-footed. I did not know that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we were really watching him passing, were we?
No. We were watching him fall over most weeks, I think.
And it's funny that famous clip of the blind step over he does. I think he plays it with his right after that, so maybe he put it as well. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the most interesting signs, I think, of the club era. But yeah, left-footed, know that one. So we'll move on anyway to. I'm going back to Holland, and I'm going to PSV, where we've just bought Gakpo from, and I'm going to one of his teammates in Xavi Simons. Yeah, interesting player, looks very interesting. He's another off the PSG production line, and another who seems to be underappreciated by PSV to the extent that they've let him go for buns. I think the same happened a few seasons ago to Moussa Diaby, who went to Leverkusen. And I think the same happened with Christopher Nkunku as well, who went to Leipzig. These are just forward players who have bags of potential, but PSV just wants proven quality, so they end up selling them for small fees. So PSV took advantage of that. He's still only 19 years old, but this season I'm pretty sure he's played every game. I think he's made 20 starts. And he's played as kind of a middleman up front. I think sometimes as a 10, sometimes as a bit more of a centre forward. And he's kind of like been a bit of a facilitator really for Gakpo, funnily enough, who from the left kind of hoovered up most of the PSV attack, and Simons through the middle. I think he depicts shades of Firmino for me. I think he's really slight in comparison though. I think he's actually like 5'6".
Yeah.
Very technical, good close control and things like that. And to be fair to him, he has got 9 goals and 4 assists in his 20 starts this season. But one of the reasons I associate him with Firmino is I think Firmino just has this like remarkable ability to pick up the ball in the smaller spaces, despite how much pressure he's under, and basically just kind of make the ball stick, just offer like glue basically in the final third. And Simons looks like he's that kind of talent really. I'm not sure if he's a false 9 or a number 10 or whatever, but whatever he is anyway, he got called up to the Dutch World Cup squad. I think Van Gaal was praising his performance is insane and things like that. And I just think, considering he's 19, by the time he's like, I don't know, closer to 23, 25, I would expect him, maybe if he continues in his vein, to be at a bigger club, basically, potentially even in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Xavi Simons, because he's kind of one of those who was like a wonder kid who kind of lost his way and has kind of refound it again. A little bit like Martin Odegaard or Kubo, who's doing really well for Sociedad these days. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, he came through at Barcelona, and like you say, his stature, close control, skill, obviously he's going to be compared to Lionel Messi, and he was compared to Lionel Messi. Ironically, he made the move to Paris first, and it didn't quite go well because, like you say, PSG are always looking at the bigger picture, and they were in flux at that point between Pochettino and previous manager Tuchel. So he didn't really get proper opportunities, and like you say, he was shipped out like so many of their best young talent. But I'm so pleased to see him start to get his career together again, because when he was touted as the young Messi, you could really see it. I mean, I think under 19s, under 18s football, he was an absolute superstar, and all of the compilation videos I say are out there for him. I'm sure I remember them from that time. But sometimes when you see a player who's taken that way, particularly like Lionel Messi, is such a big name to put onto someone's shoulders at that age.
Yeah.
And yet he was doing so much more than he should have been at that age. So people felt, okay, he can handle everything. He's still a young man. He's not going to be able to handle everything. So maybe being at PSV, it's a shame in some ways that Gakpo's not there, because they were, by all accounts, building up quite a nice little partnership. But I think he might actually be better off maybe not going straight to a big team now, maybe staying at PSV another year, maybe moving to a team that's in the Champions League, but not necessarily a team that's desperate to win it every season. And just kind of, he's got time, he's 19 years old, he can take his time and progress and learn and adapt as a footballer, particularly if he's still going to be playing internationally. I think, again, he's a very good talent, but they need to manage him well to make sure he reaches his potential.
Yeah, well, I think he should kind of do basically what Diaby and Nkunku have done. Obviously, they moved from PSG a few years ago, and they haven't really rushed that next move. They've allowed themselves to develop at their respective clubs. Now Nkunku is going to Chelsea at a point where he seems ready. And Simmons looks like he's got lots of qualities attached to his game. As I said, he's really, really agile, changes direction very, very quickly, and you can understand as a result of that why Messi has popped up as a potential target for him, which is ridiculous. No one's going to get close to Lionel Messi in my lifetime. I'll be amazed if they do. But in terms of, I suppose, possessing a similar skill set but to a smaller level, I think he is similar. And it's interesting actually that since Gakpo moved to Anfield, he's been used in a Firmino kind of role, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years' time, I'm not sure what the plan is for Gakpo, but even a few years' time, Simmons looks like a better heir to Firmino's throne than Gakpo does. But obviously Liverpool couldn't move for Simmons. He just moved to PSV 6 months ago. He's still only 19 and things. So I think Gakpo was more of a sensible sign in that sense. But I think further down the line, it'll be interesting to see what Simmons becomes. But I think we'll round up there, mate. Bit of a shorter episode than usual, and a bit of a different episode as well. But you've now taken part in your first Gakpo.
Well, in that case, I just want to put 2 more names into the pot. Sorry, 3 more names into the pot, just in case they do blow up in time before we do the next one.
Good.
So, Rasmus Højlund, the other guy at Atalanta I was going to mention, Danish striker, going to be compared to the other big Scandinavian striker, but he's actually better in the build-up play. He's only had a short period of time where he's improved, but if he continues in that same trajectory, he's going to be a problem. Another English winger playing abroad, Sam Illing Jr., currently playing at Juventus. Again, he's made very few appearances so far, but when he has come off the bench, he's looked amazing. One game in particular against Benfica in the Champions League, he basically roasted their whole defence, set up 1 goal, could have set up another couple, and Juve had a terrible Champions League campaign, so that moment really stood out. And finally, Arnel Martinez, another young right back playing for Girona, converted from a centre back. He's got the attacking stats, but again, he's another one who's really good in his defensive work. Really, really impressive. I mean, he's basically been shining for a mid-table team at the moment. He's one of the most touted fullbacks in La Liga, you'll find. So yeah, I want to mention those three because I feel like Martinez in particular, he might be the guy who Barcelona look to finally shore up that right back side. So if they can get him on one side and Balde on the other, look out.
Yeah, all good shouts, mate. It's been an impressive debut, I'll be honest. Yeah, thanks for joining us as always, mate.
No problem. I enjoy it.
And we'll be back next week, so thanks for tuning in, and we will see you then.